Welcome to the New Chemist podcast. We're glad you're listening. Feel free to download this podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Here on the New Chemist, we discuss chemistry, which simply put is the science of change, as well as careers, community research, and COVID-19. We're happy you're tuning in. My guest today is Dev Mandavia. Thanks for joining me today. It is so good to hear from you. Just briefly, I'll inform my audience about you. Dev Mandavia graduated Georgia Tech with a Bachelor's of Science with highest honor. His activities and societies included Alpha Eta Mu Beta, Kappa Sigma Fraternity. He studied abroad at the University of Oxford. He was a part of BMES. He also received several recognitions and awards. The Inventure Prize, first place twice. He also received the People's Choice Awards with the team that he worked with. The ACC Inventure Prize, he was a finalist twice. Received the People's Choice Awards. He was also part of CreateX Startup Launch Accelerator 3 times. He was a National Inventors Hall of Fame CIC finalist. NBIB VentureWell debut, challenge 3rd place. He received faculty's honors, dean's list, and he was a recipient of the Zelen Hope Scholarship. Some of his leadership responsibilities included Student Body Vice President for Campus Services, SGA, EVP for STAM's Health Ambassadors, and VP of Finance for GT Bravo Club. He has been very successful. He has served as a research assistant at Duke University Pratt School of Engineering. He has also served as Student Body VP, as I said, and he has served as a research lead for Mobile Enzyme Absorbing Particles Group. He has served as the founder and CEO of Alphen Technologies. He has also served as the Conversion Science Fellow, as a business advisor and consultant for OXOS Medical, co-founder, executive chairman, and then CEO at Ethos Medical. And currently he serves as the head of enterprise architecture and growth at OXOS Medical. Dev enjoys working in a multidisciplinary team and adopt a user-centered approach to solve real problems. He enjoys engaging in K-12 STEM outreach programs, traveling, skiing, golfing, and exploring eateries in his free time. Dev is a good colleague and friend of mine. It's definitely a pleasure and an honor to have such a talented and intelligent young man on this podcast. Well, Dev, thanks so much for joining me today. It's so good to have you on as a guest. Wow, me and Dev, we go way back to Georgia Tech, to BMed 3100. I mean, it's so good to see you, man. How have you been?
Things have been great, man. Yeah, it's really exciting. It feels like just yesterday we were at, lecture, but I'm glad to see all the things that you've been up to, and I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, dude. So what have been your long-standing interests in the field of science?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I've seen you've done a lot. You have done a lot in your career thus far, even though you graduated.
Oh no, you're too kind.
Yeah.
I think the things that interest me the most are, working with really intelligent, driven people, and us collectively working towards trying to make a difference. As cliche as it sounds, a lot of, I think the reason that I gravitated towards the healthcare field or like medical devices, more broadly science, was because it was more tangible to see the kind of impact that you could have, right?
Okay.
So, with the devices that's, we're making now, or with the services that we provide, it's very easy to directly see the impact it has to patients, to doctors, to people that are providing care, which is exciting and very encouraging.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So, I'll break it down for us just a bit. You said you see tangible impact. What do you mean by that?
Sure. So, not that there's anything wrong with, pursuing a career in a different industry, but me personally, if I were to start a company that was in, the social media space, or, another project management tool, or, fintech, or this, that, and the other, all of this provides services and they provide value to people. But when we look particularly in like the medical device or healthcare space, it's very easy to see that, okay, if I make this one thing, this could improve patient outcomes by X because of a problem that we've identified, or that this service is going to, in the context of what I'm working on now, trying to increase access to care and providing more equitable care to, majority of the world that currently lacks access to it. So that's something that's, encourages me, and it's what I think of when I get out of bed and go to sleep every day. And that's, I think, why it's at least easier for me to gravitate towards something like that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really passionate about it. So given all the things you're doing in your career, how do you maintain view of the bigger picture? Like, how do you see the forest for the trees? How do you keep perspective in your workplace and also in your personal life?
The short answer is I don't do a great job of it.
Okay, that's fair.
It's something that I'm continuously, trying to be better at. I think it's very easy, especially when you're passionate about something, to kind of get lost into it.
I know, right?
It feels like just yesterday that we were at Tech, and like I truly feel that because I've been working so long and so hard at what we've been up to, and it's something that I'm super passionate about. But it also, you do lose the forest for the trees. It is sometimes hard to keep track of, the bigger picture or the 10-year, 15-year plan. Not that, I'm a proponent of those kinds of things. I'm, a little more laid back and like to see where life takes me, and just make sure that I wake up every day, look in the mirror, and am excited to do what I'm about to do that day. And that's kind of how I
life,
I guess, proceed right now. Yeah.
Okay, that's good, man. So how have you been adaptive and creative in the field of science? Can you discuss any of your projects that you're working on or that you've worked on? How have you been adaptive? How have you added your flair? Because you've worked in the biomedical engineering space, and you also work in the science space primarily. So what I see, you worked as a Convergent Science Fellow, you worked as a founder and CEO of Alphen Technologies, a variety of other things. So where have you added your flair?
So I think the biomedical engineering degree from Georgia Tech is great because it is kind of a blend of a lot of different disciplines together. So you have more of a holistic understanding, and you also have maybe more of an entrepreneurial background, at least based on the program that Georgia Tech kind of encourages. Yeah. So in terms of how I've added, let's say, my flair.
Well, what's been piqued your curiosity as you've worked in the field? What project particularly has piqued your curiosity?
Where I'm at now is honestly probably the most excited I've been. I think throughout my career. OXOS Medical, we're trying to enable anyone anywhere to access diagnostic care right where they need it, exactly when they need it. So, we want to bring radiologic imaging safely to the point of care, especially for the majority of the world that currently lacks access to, diagnostic imaging as a whole, but also any subsequent care that's associated with it. And that's, I think, the mission that we have that excites me. I think in terms of what about it that I enjoy is the multidisciplinary aspect of it, I think the BME degree lends itself to. So, I don't do much of the technical work anymore, even though I have in the past. And I think the technical background is great to have because it becomes very difficult to manage a pretty complex project, especially a pretty, heavy R&D engineering project without having some level of understanding. But at the same time, I think the business acumen and I think the healthcare background, or at least the knowledge of, the healthcare system as a whole with payers and, providers and such, is very beneficial for crafting, what is our go-to-market? What is our long-term strategy? How is it that we're actually going to achieve this mission that we've, set out to go and accomplish? How do we get the funding, the resources, the, correct staff?
I agree. That's good.
Actually go and do that. So that's I think where I've been interested.
Okay, good. So along the same lines, how long is it for the project that you've worked on? Has it been a long time for them to go to market, or are you still in the process right now, or have some gone to the market already?
Yeah, so the first version of our product was more a limited market release. We got FDA clearance for it last year,
Okay.
and it was a way to gauge product market fit, market demand, and get feedback on what would eventually lead to our commercial scale version, which we're expecting to have FDA clearance for later this year, and enter the US market, and then closely after the international market with. So I would say, in terms of the life cycle of kind of a startup company, still in the early stage, still really exciting, still the point where everyone's wearing a lot of different hats, and things are changing pretty quickly.
Yeah, so it sounds like, is it a startup, if I may? Is it a startup, or would you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. So how have you sought or found the right environment for you to thrive intellectually and scientifically? So how did you find this OXOS Medical? How did you find these various places you worked at? What process did you go through in your mind or in your life, or to find these places? How do you think through your decisions?
It honestly kind of happened by chance,
Okay, by chance. Okay.
Yeah. Well, what is the adage that, opportunity or luck is, just when opportunity meets preparation, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I've heard them before.
While I was working on my last startup, OXOS Medical, one of our board directors was a board director of this company as well. So there was the introduction made there to the CEO of OXOS Medical, and we became, very close mentor-mentee relationship, and then became fast friends. And we'd been in touch for, the last 3-4 years, throughout, the very early stages of OXOS. And I think after we had raised a funding round at OXOS Medical, it made sense to make the jump over, because I think there was something that there was a need that I felt that I could fill. And there was a large enough and ambitious enough problem that OXOS had set out to actually go and pursue, that got me excited to make the jump.
That's good. That's very good. So how do you maintain a balanced life given all your responsibilities and accomplishments? Would you say you're balanced, Dev, or do you have your priorities in check?
I mean,
oh my goodness. Yeah,
it's Georgia Tech guys.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I take time to, do the things that let me kind of de-stress, or, give me time away. Some people, meditate. I play golf. I play golf poorly, might add. I'm still learning, but it's a hobby of mine that I've picked up that I found really relaxing, and something that I think just, takes me away from the work environment.
Yeah.
But
and I've heard golf is a good networking tool too,
Oh yeah, I mean, we have plenty of our investors and C-suite stuff that are into golf. So it's been a really fun hobby, and I think it's gained a lot of popularity as of late as well.
Okay, good. So, what if you had to break down your success thus far? How would you say you've been successful as a student from point A to point B, from Georgia Tech to where you are now? What would you say has complemented you being successful? Has it been your work ethic? Has it been the time you spend on your work? Has it been the networking that you have, the mentors that you made, that you found? Has it been these different, has it been the projects that you worked on along the way? What has complemented your success tremendously?
Oh boy. I mean, it's all the things you said, but I think, I think, the work ethic, the amount of work that I do, all the cliche things are more of a downstream effect of being passionate about what it is that you want to do. If there's something that you truly believe in, if there's something that truly gets you out of bed, or that you think about, before you go to sleep every night, that's going to, that will be the driving factor in you putting in the work, in you going outside of the scope of, what is required, doing, beyond what is necessary to, however we're defining quote unquote success, right? So I think that's first and foremost has been what has allowed me to do what I've done, at least so far in the healthcare and the medical space. And I think through that, I've been able to meet some pretty incredible people that have had, a very long-lasting impact on my career. That board director at the company I had founded, who is also a board director here, who made that introduction initially, that was, a big step. And he was actually one of the people that back in Georgia Tech encouraged me to, look down the path of entrepreneurship, given that he's a professor at Georgia Tech in the biomedical engineering department, Dr. James Stubbs, who's, just a phenomenal human. And he'd been there, done that, started and sold a bunch of companies, and was one of the reasons that, like yourself, I was pre-med as well, and decided that instead of med school, I felt that, at least personally, I could have a larger impact if I made the tools, the services, and devices that healthcare providers, used to provide care to patients, as opposed to being one of the providers themselves.
Yeah, dude, and you have to find your niche. I completely agree with that. And I say this is my personal opinion. I don't believe everyone is called to be a doctor. Everyone has the passion to do so, and I think you can make effective change in different spaces, and the change could still be as long lasting, or it may not translate as quickly in the clinical arena, but the change could still be long lasting. So yeah, and also the thing you talked about Professor Georgia Tech, dude, we could have another episode just about the professors I've met at Georgia Tech, whether they be people who look like me, who don't look like me. It's just the genuine care, concern, and technical acumen of those professors, especially when it came to not just the classroom, but also your next steps.
Oh yeah.
That's something that's indelible in my mind. So how do you maintain vision and teamwork in your environment?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
How do you maintain vision and teamwork in your environment?
So, especially in the startup environment where things change so quickly, that can be difficult, right? That is something that we are still trying to get better at. I think in terms of vision, that's something that we reiterate every time we have like an all hands. We put the development of the next product in the context of the vision. We make sure that people actually truly buy in when we're recruiting and going through interviews. It is just that important for everyone in the company to have buy-in, for everyone to believe that, what we're doing is important. Because as I mentioned earlier, that passion is really what is going to drive the work ethic. That passion is going to be what is, going to produce a caliber of work that just can't be replicated. So we put the vision first and foremost. In terms of teamwork, that is more of something that we try to address through a cultural fit. So we look for people that are, humble, that are willing to be proven wrong, and can take criticism constructively. A lot of the things that require you to forego your ego so that you can collaborate with other people who often have maybe a different set of either objectives or key results that sometimes can conflict, and parties need to be able to negotiate with one another. And it becomes easier when you frame everything in the context of that vision. If everyone's steering in the same direction, that teamwork aspect becomes much simpler. You can put things in the context of the vision as opposed to in the context of what individuals believe is right or true. So I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like what you said. You said if everyone's steering in the right direction, I think that allows for more precision in terms of company objectives and company goals, fulfilling those goals. You come closer and closer to the target as you move around because you're all steering in the same direction. That's good. Very good. So why did you choose biomedical engineering as a field to major in Georgia Tech? Why BMed? Why did you choose it?
Initially, it was because I was pre-med and because Georgia Tech had, a great program, and I was interested in an engineering degree. I was interested in learning, I don't want to say more, but being able to build things or understand, from a first principles basis, how things work. So that was what I think initially encouraged me to look at BME. But I think, my rationale evolved over time. As I started to look outside of the scope of just pre-med. I fell in love with, the problem-based learning environment. I really enjoyed the collaborative environments, given that, most of the classes were team project based. And I was really, I think the BME program, more than anything else, is one of the reasons that I pursued entrepreneurship. I mean, our program, more than, I think most others, even at Georgia Tech, is very, entrepreneurial focused. I think because the degree forces you to think about things in the context of the problems that clinicians, that patients, that whomever face, and how you can address said problems. And that's a framework that you can apply to anything. It doesn't necessarily need to be within, the medical device space or the healthcare space.
I agree.
And
I completely agree, because I'm working on a startup as well within science education, media for science education. So yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. So, and that startup is doing rather well. So my question to you is, how have you been resilient in COVID? During COVID-19, I hope we're nearing the end of this, from what it seems globally. I hope we're nearing the end of this pandemic. How have you been resilient? Or what complemented to you being resilient?
So I think we didn't feel, or at least I personally didn't feel, the effects of COVID as strongly, primarily because, there were instances where, it was necessary for us to continue to go into like hospitals, obviously with the proper safety precautions and such, but, we were necessary workers. We were creating, a hardware product, and that can't be done virtually. So we had to creatively think of ways in which we could continue operation while still ensuring that, everything was safe, and that, we were going above and beyond to make sure that we weren't putting anyone at, unnecessary risk. So for the most part, after we had figured that out and put those pieces in place, operation kind of proceeded as normal. Sure, there were maybe some additional steps like, the space in between all of us, barriers, masks, this, that, and the other. But we were still, at least after an initial lull, coming back into the office, we were still, collaborating on the project as we have been. And even though some of the team was now more distributed, since we have a pretty strong and pretty large software team, we're already pretty used to working with a distributor or remote team anyway. It kind of forced us to be more proactive in our processes and how we, risk mitigated our operations for the future, which I think was helpful. But in terms of, personal resiliency, I think one of the things that's been very difficult for a lot of people during COVID is not being able to see a lot of people. We as humans are very social creatures. Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't think I personally felt that to as great an extent as maybe some other people.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. So, if someone listens to this episode, or when people listen to this episode, and they see your career and they look at your profile on LinkedIn and just like, this dude's amazing, how can I be like him? So what would be your advice to those wanting to be like you, or wanting to pursue the field that you are currently working in? What's your advice to them?
For people that are interested in the field I'm in, I think a passion for the field, you'll notice a trend in some of my responses, is pretty important. I think that'll drive a lot of the work ethic and the decisions that you'll make that will be career defining. So that, I think, first and foremost, if it is something that you truly are passionate about, is something that you want to pursue, you empathize and believe in, creating devices, tools, services, what have you, that help anyone affected by healthcare or medicine, it's something that should come naturally. And if it doesn't, that's not to say that it's not for you. There are definitely a lot of different aspects of, similar to what you were saying earlier, there are definitely a lot of different ways that people can create an impact. So finding out what it is that you're passionate about or what drives you I think is going to be what allows you to set yourself apart from your peers. And I think in college, that is a large part of what you're doing. It's not just taking classes so that you can learn and retain content. A lot of it is to better understand yourself and better understand what it is that you're passionate about and want to pursue in the future. So for anyone out there listening, I mean, figure out, it doesn't matter really how old you are, or whether you're in college before or after, what have you. Ask yourself what it is that gets you excited. What is it that you're passionate about? And then do whatever it is that lets you maintain that level of excitement, career-wise, personally, what have you.
Yeah, self-discovery. Yeah, that's very important, dude. You have to know yourself to grow yourself and also to help with change. So, what has been some of the most beneficial advice you have received, Dev? Like either from your parents, your mentors, what has been some of the most beneficial advice you received?
Oh, that's a good question.
What replays in your mind on hard days, or when you have really exciting times that kind of brings you back down to earth?
So one of the things that I think has been helpful is I don't remember who exactly told me or where I read this, but to be inflexible in your vision and what it is that you're trying to achieve long term, but very flexible in how you get there. Just because something isn't going as planned, or you face some, however you define a setback, this, that, the other, you don't need to have a set plan, a set of steps, things that have to go exactly right for you to get to where it is that you want to be. I don't personally, believe in kind of a 10, 15, 20-year plan or anything to that extent. I live in the moment for the most part, but I know the things that excite me are the things that I feel are going to make an impact. So in the context of, for me personally, if my goal is to make an impact, I'm inflexible in that sense. I make decisions that lead me in that direction, but I'm pretty flexible in what I do day to day, week to week, year to year, as long as it's framed in the context of, what it is I'm passionate about.
Okay, that's good, Dad. That is very good. Man, Dev, thank you so much for joining me today. It was so good to have you on. Thanks for listening. We're glad you were able to tune into this podcast. Once again, this is The New Chemist, where we discuss chemistry, which simply put is the science of change, as well as the other sciences, careers, community, research, and COVID-19. Thanks again for listening. Note, the views on this podcast represent those of my guests and I. Thanks for listening. We're glad you were able to tune into this podcast. Once again, this is The New Chemist, where we discuss chemistry, which simply put is the science of change, as well as the other sciences, careers, community, research, and COVID-19. Thanks again for listening. Note, the views on this podcast represent those of my guests and I.